Women veterans are 4 times more likely to become homeless than their non-veteran counterparts.
Military sexual trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, those are some of our top 10 diagnoses for female veterans.
The military doesn't have a very good way of putting you back into civilian life. They don't really connect you with the proper resources.
They put their lives on the line to serve our country, but it's often the battles they face back here at home that are the most challenging. From homelessness to suicide, we reveal the major issues facing our female veterans and ways they can find the help they need. Stay with us as we dive into your South Florida. Hello and welcome. I'm Pam Gigante. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to the all-new Your South Florida, where we choose one important topic each month that's having an impact on our local communities. We'll dive deep into that issue and take a look at it from several angles. As we honor those who served selflessly on Veterans Day this month, we're shining a light on the fastest growing segment of that population, our nation's female veterans. Of the 20 million veterans in the U.S., women account for nearly 2 million of them. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Florida is home to the second largest population of female veterans in the United States, with more than 145,000. But as this population grows, so does the strain on local resources set up to help with the delicate transition from being a soldier back to civilian life. It's a complex transition that includes higher risks of suicide, homelessness, and mental health issues that female veterans often face alone.
I joined the Marine Corps as an 18-year-old, fresh out of high school. I didn't really know back then that that would lead me to the work that I'm doing now.
Sergeant Laura Whitfield served nearly 9 years in the U.S. Marine Corps.
I needed to have some discipline and structure in my life, and the recruiters were coming to my school and different branches, and I loved the Marine Corps uniform. So that was really the first hook, and then, you know, learning more about the organization and the training and the opportunities to become a leader of people. And after training, I was then relocated to Tokyo, Japan, and served the second tour as a broadcast journalist with the Far East Network. It was the American television station for all of the military members and their families who were stationed overseas in Japan. It was just an amazing opportunity for me to grow and develop some wonderful skills that have taken me into my career after leaving the military.
And almost to where you are now, right?
Yeah, I would say it's prepared me because in broadcasting I had to do a lot of public speaking and you know, doing events in the community and really having that engagement with the community.
As the new director of United Way of Miami-Dade's Mission United, Laura now helps other veterans transition from active duty back to civilian life.
United Way leadership is seeing the value in having Mission United be that connector for veterans and their families to all the resources that are available to us. We actually focus on some key areas that are what we call pillars. And one of them is employment, so we want the veteran to be employment ready when they're reintegrating. Housing is a challenge, you know, affordable housing, so we have partners that help a veteran and family to avoid homelessness.
And while homelessness among veterans in Florida has been cut by more than half since 2011, women veterans are still more likely to become homeless than civilian women and are the fastest growing segment of the homeless veteran population, according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Female veterans,
I was going to say,
are 4 times likely to be homeless than someone who's a non-veteran.
And why do you think that is?
When we're coming home or to another community that we think we can become employed, we're not finding jobs, we're not having those support systems for our children, and so child care is an issue. We are dealing with post-traumatic stress and not seeking the help, or not knowing about the help that's available, and just kind of getting into that cycle of isolation and not thinking that you have any other options.
Because of these issues facing U.S. women veterans, in May of 2010, Congress signed into law the Caregivers and Veterans Omnibus Health Services Act. This legislation required the VA to examine the potential barriers to women veterans using and accessing VA healthcare services. The study identified 9 issues such as transportation, child care, gender sensitivity, and the stigma of mental health.
One of the main barriers was that women weren't actually defining themselves as a veteran. They would come home, go back to their regular lives, and not actually come to the VA and seek medical attention. So we needed to know why this was happening.
Rosemary Balaguer is the Women Veterans Program Manager at the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center. She says the study has helped encourage more female veterans to get the help they need.
Back in 2014, we were running like a usual 1,800, 2,000 female veterans. So far, since the study, matter of fact, we started using the barriers to change how we're actually focusing on several things. We're already up to almost 5,000 female veterans that are actually being seen at the West Palm Beach VA. They're amazed of all the actual medical care that they can receive. Our female veterans are offered the choice to be seen at our female clinic, our Women's Veterans Center, and they actually can receive comprehensive health care, including gender-specific care.
And as more female vets began accessing care, another major crisis facing these women gained attention: suicide. The most recent data from the VA shows that more veterans died by suicide in 2017 than the previous year, with women vets committing suicide at more than twice the rate of civilian women. And while the number of male veteran suicides in Florida declined from the previous year, female veteran suicides increased. It's a trend that worries clinical psychologist Dr. Monahan, who leads the suicide prevention program at the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center. She says the issue of veteran suicide is complex.
Both females and males share some common factors. They have difficulty transitioning from the military, something the military is now working on. They both experience combat trauma, and untreated PTSD or untreated mental illness can be a risk factor for suicide. But the females also deal with a lot more military sexual trauma, and they were told in the military not to talk about that. So it's an added burden for them.
Military sexual trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, those are some of our top 10 diagnoses for female veterans.
1 in 4 female veterans in the VA healthcare system reports experiencing military sexual trauma, or MST, which includes both harassment and assault during her service. In its latest annual report on sexual assault in the military, the U.S. Department of Defense estimates that 13,000 female service members experienced some kind of harassment or sexual assault in 2018, up from over 4,000 in 2017. The DoD says part of the reason for this spike comes down to more assaults being reported. About 1 in every 3 military members now choose to report a sexual assault, up from about 1 in 14 in 2006.
I've seen a rise in more female veterans who are willing to share their MST experience. I think the stigma is lifting. I think there's women are feeling more empowered. And we've been for a while offering services for military sexual trauma, and that's free. Even if they don't qualify for VA benefits, they can receive services here that are free of charge.
Job well done. Welcome home.
They deserve to get the treatment that they need. It doesn't go away. It'll just keep cropping up and coming back. And the more it goes untreated, the more it ends up affecting the rest of their health.
I think that the VA, definitely is hearing, that okay, we cannot be deaf to this, and so different hospitals are coming up with holistic ways to look at dealing with MST and PTSD as well.
For organizations like the West Palm Beach VA and Mission United in Miami, building strong community partnerships has been critical in continuing to support female veterans.
It's a collaboration. It's not just United Way, but it's all of the organizations that we know are doing good work to help veterans to transition and be successful. It's that openness to have the conversation about what they aspire to do after leaving service, and being willing to listen.
And it is that sense of camaraderie that drives Miami Navy veteran Grecia Smith. While stationed in Japan, Grecia married a fellow sailor and had her first child. While thousands of miles from home, Grecia faced many challenges and, like many mothers, suffered from postpartum depression. Now she's on a mission to share her story in order to empower other female veterans to get the help and support they need.
I had no plans of college or anything like that. So then I kind of went down to the Navy's office, and then, they're really good at recruiting you, and eventually I ended up in Yokosuka, Japan. It was humbling. It was my first time away from home, first time away from my mom, my brothers. So it was rough. I think I got depressed like the first year. I was like, Mom, I gotta come home, I can't do this. And I would say she was like one of my biggest supporters. I had recently met my husband now when I was in Florida, so even going there together and not being able to have a normal relationship like most couples, that was also challenging. So we were both in the service. We were both aviation ordnancemen. 3 months into the relationship, we got engaged. 2 years in, we got married, and we served on the same ship, USS George Washington. So once I got pregnant with my daughter, I was taken off of the ship and what they call shore duty. I had my daughter, and he was on deployment. So I had to fly my mother from Florida to be with me during the birth at least. And she was only able to be there with me for 3 months, and then she had to go back home. It was hard. I still had my full-time Navy job. I had to go to work 9 to 5. That was hard. I couldn't communicate with him. If I had long nights where she was up, I'm waiting by the phone at 9 o'clock at night, hoping he can call me. Once I kind of started getting used to it, I find out that I'm pregnant with my son. My daughter was only 6 months. And I was devastated. I can be open and honest about it now. I was sad. I didn't want him. There were times where I wish I miscarried, and those are things that people don't think would happen to them. So that was difficult for me to deal with. So then my son was born a year later, and again he was on deployment. My mother was with me once again, but 3 months later she had to go. And while she was there, I got postpartum depression. It hit me the very first night. I left him with my mom, and I said I don't want to have anything to do with him. And that for my mom was hard too, because she had 4 kids and she did it by herself, and she's like, kids are everything. And I'm like, well, I don't feel that connection. So I would say up until he was about 6 months, I was dealing with that. I'd email my husband and I'd be like, I have thoughts of, committing suicide. Feeling thoughts of just like hurting them, and I was like, why am I feeling this way? This is not normal. And so my husband, that took a toll on, I would say, on our marriage. That was probably the toughest part of our marriage. So then I sought help. I had someone come to my home and kind of talk to me and talk me through, and they're like, this is completely normal. I still have my days where I have anxiety, I get depressed, I get down, but I'm able to deal with it and cope with it better now than I did 4 years ago. When we came back home, we didn't have that support system anymore, and the military doesn't have a very good way of putting you back into civilian life. We go through a 1-week transitional training where they teach you how to resume build, but they don't really connect you with the proper resources. So I went out and I did my own research, and I said, okay, let me try to find some veteran groups. Women Veterans Alliance came up. Fast forward to now, and we've built a good network with other organizations. This journey with starting up Women Veterans Alliance of Broward County has been a challenging one because it is hard to capture the attention of the female veteran population. We started creating our events where we'll be like boots and brushes or boots and advocacy. So we're still highlighting the fact that we wore our boots and we were on the grounds, but also that this is what we're doing now. So for example, our boots and brushes, we touched on the topic of the benefits of art therapy for veterans with PTSD, depression, anxiety. We talked about any traumas that we faced. And so to know that we're able to foster that environment and those relationships with these women, and to hear even the feedback from male veterans to say, finally, we have that for women. Essentially, that's what we're here for. We're just trying to give each other that safe space and that sense of familiarity and belonging, and I think we're accomplishing it.
Wow, what an incredible story. And in addition to her work with the Women's Veterans Alliance of Broward County, Grecia also serves on the board of a new Boca Raton-based nonprofit called Operation 120. Their goal is to provide housing and transitional life skills and support to at-risk female veterans. Here to share more are Operation 120 founder and president Renette Verhage and executive director Alida Barrios. Women, thank you so much, ladies, for being with us today to talk about these women veterans.
Thank you for having us.
Grecia's story is so moving. You and I looked at each other when she started to talk about her postpartum depression, and we were all very moved. And you said to me, her story is one of many stories. So Renette, talk about why you decided to start Operation 120 and help these female veterans.
Well, just like with Grecia, you hear, their stories, they come back, they don't have the support that they need, and even a home to go to. So we're opening the first supportive housing in all of South Florida for our female veterans. I've got tears in my eyes. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's very moving. I know that she's helped your organization. Tell us a little bit about some of the other women who are part of the organization who are so in need like she has been.
Our board members have been building a strong board so that we can get our housing going. Our fellow veterans, we're trying to get a community together so that they have a place for that camaraderie that, like what Grecia was saying, that they're missing. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's,
so there's a lot of need, right?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Alida, talk about that for a moment. Talk about some of the biggest needs for this community, and how many women would you say you are serving with the organization?
Well, we just leased our first home, so we're hoping to start bringing in the clients within a month. We will start with 3, and eventually we would like to serve at least 6. The house can accommodate up to 6. If we had the funds or a big home, we will bring in as many as we could. This is a very expensive program for us to put together, but we'll start small, put a very strong structure together and build on it. We do know that there's got to be a huge need. The VA Hospital of West Palm Beach has endorsed us. So obviously that tells us in the community that there is an enormous need for such service, supportive housing for just female veterans in the Palm Beach County.
Right, and we heard Laura Whitfield from Mission United in Miami-Dade County talk about those partnerships and how important those partnerships are. So talk about, Renette, if you will, how important those partnerships are to your mission and what you're doing. Just building that house and the services that go along with that home, that is not anything that your organization can do on its own. No. You need that community help, right?
Yes.
So talk about how important that is.
It's instrumental. Otherwise we would not be successful. We built relationships with Dress for Success so that the ladies can go get their makeup done, help with resume writing, get their clothing, Boca Helping Hands with food. Trying to think of some other organizations.
We will also be working with Apple One. They're a huge recruiting company out of West Palm Beach. They're going to help us place some of these women into real jobs. We have also just reached out to volunteers, how they're going to be able to come in and help with maybe spending an hour with our clients, get them off the premises, maybe have a cup of coffee, just trying to help them reintegrate back into
civilian life. Why do you think it is so hard? What are you hearing from these women? We've also heard too that they don't think of themselves necessarily as veterans. They've just finished doing one job, they're moving on to the next, and they don't even necessarily understand or know what kind of benefits are coming to them because of their status, correct? Talk about that, Alita.
Right. So we hear that a lot of them do not come forward for various reasons. Sometimes they feel the system has failed them. And some of them don't even realize that these benefits are available to them. Some of these women are sexually abused or they're dismissed from the military, and they just do not have the benefits. And they're just afraid to come forward, especially those that have children, because they're afraid their children will be taken away from them. A lot of them don't even go to shelters because, again, some of these women have been sexually abused in the military, and the last place they would like to be is in a shelter where there's men.
Right.
So there's all these different obstacles that they have against them. A lot of them have been very structured while they serve in the military. They have been trained very specifically for certain jobs, and those jobs, that training is not transferable to regular civilian jobs.
So they need some help.
Absolutely.
Renette, talk about how important the fundraising is. What kinds of things are you doing to continue to raise funds so that you can provide homes and provide training and maybe daycare for the kids? I mean, there's so many things I know you want to provide for these women. So talk about the fundraising aspect. That's huge.
So that's huge too.
Yeah.
So we're a new organization. We've been working very hard, I say day and night, for the last 15 months. But we've accomplished, I think, a lot of accomplishments. We've hit huge strides. The fundraising, we'll be putting together events. We have an event coming up in Boca Town Center at Johnny Was, and that's on November 16th. And we'll continue to do the events.
Yeah. What would be your dream as far as how much money you could raise? Because you have this home. I'm sure you want to buy more homes, correct?
Absolutely.
Or rent more homes. Do you rent it or you own it?
We're renting.
You're renting
We're
it,
renting,
okay.
For the first year so that we can start with our program.
Yeah.
Like a soft opening, go through any complicated, oh dear.
Just kind of work through all the kinks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So talk a little bit more, Alita, about going forward. I mean, what does the future hold, hopefully, for Operation 120? Because even as Renette was expressing, you're really a young organization. You've only almost 2 years you've been together. So talk about the future of the organization. What's really needed?
For sure, funds.
Yeah.
This is an enormous task that we have taken on. It's very expensive because while our clients are with us, we will provide everything for them.
Right.
Not just the house, but the food, the clothing, and any transportation, anything that they may need. So obviously the funds are needed for all these different programs. So it's imperative that we get the community engaged, because there's just no way we're going to be able to accomplish this on our own. Our dreams is to own our own facility with many bedrooms, because we do not want to turn anybody down. And that is our biggest fear. And Renette and I talk about this. That is going to break our heart. The day that we do not have maybe the funds or the room, and we're going to have to turn down women. Right now, it's only for single women. The goal is to bring in those women with children, but that it's also, again, it's going to require a lot more funds, bigger space. So there's just, for sure, the funds is what we need the most right now. And we are hoping, and we're not going to give up, that there will be an angel donor that will donate a beautiful house to us and say, ladies, make this dream come true. That will be the ultimate
prize for you and for your organization. Well, hopefully somebody watching will be very moved by what they've seen here today and how these women in our community are really underserved in many ways and overlooked. So we thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Well, we thank
Thank
you
you
very,
very
very much.
Absolutely. And for upcoming volunteer opportunities, events, and more on Operation 120, visit our Facebook page at Your South FL. We'll also have information on additional resources in here in South Florida to help out. And we thank you so much for joining us this month. We hope you'll join us again in December as we take a look at some unique ways people are giving back to their communities. Until then, we'll see you next time.